Agricola's blade came up sharply, Noric steel glinting in the morning sunlight, meeting his opponent's sword with a bone-jarring force. The edges clashed and metal shrieked as they slid along one another until they broke free, Agricola's blade whipping up into the air, his opponent's drawing a narrow red line across his thigh. He grunted as he staggered away, looking down and then back up at the aggressor. "You cut me!" "I'll bloody gut you if you don't give me everything, Neas. You're still dropping your guard when you think you've got the edge. Concentrate. Always be aware of your opponent. Watch his eyes, his hands, his feet. Anticipate every possible move. According to you, I'll need at least 6 eyes to fight well. Yet I have only 2, and you've still to pass my guard." Breathing heavily, Gnaeus Julius Agricola stepped back a little more until he reached the colonnade that surrounded the peristyle. There he leaned against a column and looked down at his sword. There was a small nick there, evidence of that last clash. He closed his eyes and sighed, thinking of the hours of polishing that lay ahead, working out that new imperfection. He could always use another sword, of course, but he knew he wouldn't. This was the blade his father, Graecinus, had used when he'd served his own time in the army, and if family legend was to be believed, was the same blade that had been borne by their ancestor when the Saluvii fought for the great Caesar and earned the family's name with their grant of citizenship. In truth, he didn't believe that tale one bit. Swords of this pattern weren't in common usage back then, especially not by mid-ranking Gallic tribesmen. Likely his grandfather had commissioned the sword at the earliest, but his father had believed the tale, and so that made it important. A weapon to be treasured. His gaze slid slowly up the gleaming blade to the guard of finely carved walnut and brass, the grip of bone in a hexagonal form, worn to shape by 3 or more generations of Julian hands, the pommel a perfect sphere of walnut. It was, in fact, entirely unremarkable, especially when compared with some of the decorative and expensive blades the young hopefuls of Rome wielded, but it was more than mere glamour. This was a soldier's blade, a warrior's weapon. His father had worn it as a young tribune in the war against Tacfarinas, and his grandfather against the Delmatae. It had drawn blood from the enemies of Rome for generations. "You're daydreaming. Stop staring at your sword and come at me again. We're going to keep practicing this again and again until you pay attention and stop cocking it up."